Purpose Bargo Devaste Dimehidio Yona Prashodaya. The key to success is to focus on the goals, not obstacles. With these exciting words, I welcome you all. Myself, Roshni Srinivasan from Government Ayurveda Medical College, on behalf of Ayas Kayush, Ayurveda zikSA Learning Series, our streaming partner Vaidigrama. We are glad to warmly welcome for our Sastric session, Tantrayukti Made Simple by Dr.G.Lini Grispin, Assistant Professor of Department of Samhita and Siddhanta, Emmanuel Arasar Ayurveda Medical College, Marthandam, Kanyakumari. Ma'am has completed undergraduation in Government Ayurveda College, Trivandrum, and completed post-graduation in the Department of Samhita and Siddhanta at Government Ayurveda College, Trivandrum. Ma'am has wonderfully disserted status of doshas in acid peptic disease and observational study. Ma'am has elicited various publications which makes a landmark in her clinical and teaching experience, like article on involvement of Samanya and Vishesha in Ayurveda in Indian Journal of Applied Research, article on concept of Indriya in Darshanas in Paripix Indian Journal of Research. Ma'am has done various presentations which expresses the subtle level of learning our holy Shastras, presented a paper on concept of Indriya in Darshanas in seminar of impact of Maya Visheshika on Indian thoughts of Government Sanskrit College Trivandrum. Also, Bala Swasthya Evam Poshana in the seminar Nutrition and Scope of Ayurvedic Fundamentals in the Management of Malnutrition, organized by State Ayurvedic College and Hospital, Lucknow. Also, in the concept of Samanya and Vishesha in Ayurveda, in 4th Global Ayurveda Test, and much more things. Just a small introduction to today's topic. Tantra. The Nirukti is Tan and Sran, which means elaborate, extend, stretch, compose, and with the help of an instrument or a tool. So, Tantra means an entity or ability to get expansion as per the necessity, and it is useful to maintain and hold different aspects concerned with the subjects. Purpose is connecting the sentences, clarification, and appropriation of hidden ideas which can be achieved through Vakya and Artha Yojana. Tantrayukti, which is described in the Charaka Siddhi Sthana 12th chapter, is added by Dridhabala in Charaka Samhita. It is believed that with the help of the Tantrayukti Shastra is understand properly that much important it has. But recently, the growing Ayurveda Vaidyas does not find the importance of the Tantrayukti. I hope this session will be very much fruitful to learn more techniques about the Tantrayukti and the importance of Tantrayukti in learning Ayurveda. With no other delay, I hand over the session to the ma'am. The session is yours, ma'am.
Thank you, Roshni. So, first of all, as this topic, I think it's of importance because the present curriculum aims that all of the curriculum that was designed before. Because even in the first session, as the students are introduced to BAMS itself, first in the introduction to Samhita chapter itself, they are teaching Samhita Tantrayuktis, and like unless because it was before they were teaching it at the end of the session, etc. And even now it says that you should find out the Tantrayuktis after each chapter is finished. So I think this topic is important. But this topic is always confusing, or everybody feels it is very difficult. So I think this will serve the purpose that it deserves. And I'm actually thankful to Roshni that she has given a wonderful introduction to the topic also. So my job will be easy.
Thank you, ma'am.
So actually, why Tantrayuktis are that? Why we should learn Tantrayuktis is that we should first of all have an idea about why we should learn Tantrayuktis. It is nothing that is very different from the sciences or the Tantra. It is actually a composition technique of the Samhitas or the texts. That is, when the Tantras are made itself, it is merged into it. This is not something that is later on added to the Tantras after the Tantra is complete, and that you should understand this by this. It's not like that. It is like the Tantra is merged itself with the Tantrayuktis. That is its importance. And we know only a science that is understood properly can be utilized properly. As in Charaka Samhita and all, it is said like Shastram, Shastrani, Salilam, etc. is Patram Abhekshade. That is, it just depends upon the one who utilizes it. If only you know the science well, you can use it well. And also it is said like yatha visham yatha shastram yatha agnir ashanir yada tatha aushadam avijnadam. That is, if you doesn't know the medicine or the shastra well, it does not serve its purpose, and it serves the purpose once you know it. Vijnadam means it becomes amritam yada. So here comes the importance of tantrayuktis, as this helps us in proper understanding of the tantras. So, Tantrayuktis are the tools that clears the meaning of scriptures and eases its practical application. It is necessary that we should bring this to practice. This keeping it in scriptures is not at all important. We should bring this to practice. That is its importance, and Tantrayuktis helps this. Also, this helps to explore the sara of the tantras. The tantra saras can be explored with the knowledge of Tantrayuktis, as said in Susruta Samhita. We know without the essence, with a skeletal framework or a box with its carton, will not serve the purpose. Only if it will serve the purpose, that when it's we know what it is said inside, and when it is used only, it becomes useful. So that is the importance of Tantrayuktis. So as Roshni said, this word Tantrayukti is derived from two words, Tantra and Yukti. Tantra is derived from the dhadu tan dhadu, that is tanudi vistaredi, and ashtran pratyaya. Tantra, that from the tan dhadu, it means that which can become elaborated, like Ayush Shastra, that it can become elaborated into a science. Or if you speak of a siddhanta, like in the case of Tridosha Siddhanta, it can be expanded in the form of a siddhanta or a school of thought. That is called as Tantra. And coming to Yukti, it is again having the root word as Yuj Dadu and Tin Pratyaya. Thus, Yukti is formed. So, coming to Yukti, Yuj means to unite. And the word Yukti itself means a logical application, or it means a device or artifice, that is a cleverful device or a logical application. So, Tantra Yuktis is a methodology that unifies the topics dealt in a text when it is composed itself. And it is defined as Trayade Shariram Anene iti Tantram Shastram Chikilsa cha. Tasya Yuktayo Yojanaha Tantra Yuktayaha, according to the Dalhanacharya. This Trayade Shariram Anena iti Tantram Shastram Chikilsa cha. The Tantra, Shastra, or the Chikilsa does Tranana to the Sharira. That is, it sustains the body, it keeps the body healthy. And Tasya Yuktayo Yojana, it's skillful, Yuktiful, Yukti Yukta Yojana, it's skillful union, or its logical application in the union of the content said in the Tantra is called as Tantrayukti. So, Tantrayukti helps in the logical interpretation of the Tantra as Tantra does to the Sharira. So, next we should know why we should study this. We all know that in ancient Indians, like Prajina Bharatiya Samskara, it was a tradition that when you enter into a field of science, or when you enter into a field of knowledge, or when you study new something, or when you read new something, you should go through, or you should check it with respect to the Anubandha Chadushtayas. I think all are aware of this, that is Anubandha Chadushtaya are Adhikari, Vishaya, Sambandha, and Prayojana. Adhikari is the ones who gets involved into this. As a matter of topic, in the present scenario, we all who listens this is Adhikaris, and the Vishaya is the topic dealt with it, and Sambandha is the relation between any two of the other three, that is between Adhikari and Vishaya, or Vishaya and Prayojana, like that. And coming to Prayojana, it is the important point. That is, you should not initiate anything unless you get a Prayojana out of it. Even in Sadvrita, it is said that Trivarga Shuryam na Arambha. You should not initiate anything unless it gives you any one among the Trivargas, that is Dharma, Artha, or Kama. So similarly, in this topic, if we apply this, we should find out what the Prayojana of this is. If we study this, what we will get. Unless it becomes futile, you will not get anything from it unless you understand what Prayojana you will be getting from you study or learn something new. So according to Dalhanacharya, he says the Prayojana is Vakya Yojana and Artha Yojana. Vakya Yojana is we'll be arranging the sentences in order to obtain the proper meaning from it. Like in the case of yoga, Udessa, Nirdesa, Tantrayuktis are utilized for this purpose. And in the case of Artha Yojana, that is, we can find out the hidden or latent meanings that which we feel they may be inappropriate. That is, the expansion of hidden and apparently inappropriate meanings in sentences is done with the help of Artha Yojana. And the Tantrayuktis that helps in this are Adhikarana, Padartha, etc. So coming to the importance, what is the importance of this? Actually, the importance and the Prayojana is mingled with each other, and these are interconnected. So it is said that the importance of this Tantrayukti, if you learn this, what it helps is in Asatvadi Vakya Pradishedhanam. Asatvadi Vakya Pradishedhanam. It does in Pradishedhana. It helps you to refute what asatvadi vakyas, the vakyas that are not true, asat, or the opposite of sat. Asatvadi, vadi is the one who proposes vada. So if you enter in a scientific discourse, the statements of those who are misinterpreting texts can be refuted with the help of the knowledge of Tantrayuktis. And the next use that it renders is Swavakya Siddhyartham. Swavakya Siddhi. It is one's own statements. Your own statements can be justified with the help of knowledge of Tantrayuktis in a scientific discourse. And like to say an example is if in a vada, in a debate that discusses between the two people, it may be two medicos, and these medicos may be discussing about one will be saying that can Ayurveda treat all the diseases, that every disease is nowadays is not mentioned in the Ayurveda, so how can you treat that? And the other one will be opposing that no, Ayurveda is capable of treating all this. So in the case of this, the one who knows tantras with respect to tantriktis, he may be saying that no, it is not like that. What you mean in Ayurveda is not a science as you think, and Ayurveda actually in the Acharya says, then he may quote like Trivida Bodhya Sangraha, where the Acharya says you should understand the diseases with respect to Vigara Prakriti, Adhisthana Andhara, and Samudhana Vishesha. That is Vigara Prakriti, the nature of the diseases, Adhisthana Andhara, that is the site of manifestation of the disease, and Samudhana Vishesha, that is the etiological factors, the Nidanas responsible for the manifestation of the disease. And here the Acharya, referring this, he says, Vikaro nama kushalona jihriyat kadacharaha. You may not be able to name all the diseases, and you should not be ashamed of that. And you can interpret all the diseases on the basis of this Trivida Bodhya Sangraha. And this is applicable to other areas also. So this application is a Tantrayukti. That is, you will be using Hetvartha Tantrayukti. One concept mentioned at a place that becomes suits in other place is Hetvartha Tantrayukti. So with the help of this in a debate, one can justify his own sentence and refute other sentence. That may be taken as an example for Swavakya Siddhyartham as well as Asadvadi Vakya Pradishedana. The next importance of this is Shastra Adhigama. You can properly understand the science. It is said that Sugrihidam Shastram Rakshati and Durgrihidam Kshinodi. Sugrihidam. If you do Grahana of the science, if you understand well the science, it causes protection of the science. That is, it's Shastram Rakshati and Durgrihidam Kshinodi. That is, it causes Kshina to the science if you doesn't understand it well. Durgrihidam causes Kshina to the science. So if you can nurture the science only if you understand the science well. And the next importance is that it gives Prabodhanam and Prakashanam. Prabodhanam and Prakashanam are actually an application of the Tantrayukti, that is Nidarshana Tantrayukti. Nidarshanam is saying examples to make it known to the less intellect as well as the intellectable ones. That is Murkha Vidusham Buddhi Samyam Karodi. That is the purpose of Nidarshana Tantrayukti. So the Acharyas thinks that this is something very difficult and you can understand this in terms of this Nidarshana Tantrayukti. The first one is Prabodhanam. Prabodhanam is that it enlightens your intellect. The example said is Ambujavanasya Arkaha. To Ambujavana, what the Arka does, the Arka, sun, what it does, its rays causes blooming of the ready to bloom buds of the lotus. Similarly, if your intellect allows, you can be well versed in the science if you understand Tantrayuktis. And the next one is Prakashanam. Prakashanam means it enlightens, it gives or it spreads light. The Nidarshana said there is Pradipo Veshmanaha. Veshman is a room or an area. And Pradipam, Deepam, we know what a light or a lamp lightened there causes in the dark room. It gives light, it spreads light, it enlightens the room. So similarly is the case of Tantrayuktis. If you know the Tantrayuktis, if you have the knowledge of Tantrayuktis, it can spread areas where things that you doesn't understand in a Shastra with the help of the application of Tantrayuktis. So Prabodhana and Prakashana is a utility of knowledge of Tantrayukti. And the next utility is Ashu Anya Shastra Prabodhanam. That is, it becomes capable of understanding other allied sciences also. Ashu is faster. Anya Shastra Prabodhanam. It enlightens the knowledge of other Shastras. It doesn't mean that if you know Ayurveda, you will be excellent in some rocketry science or like that. It means allied sciences, like bridge courses, everything is under discussion. We know. And the next one is Anukta Artha Jnanam. Even we can understand the unsaid or hidden meanings from this, Anukta Artha Jnanam, or that from the knowledge of Tantrayuktis. One example to say is maybe just imagine a patient is coming to you with some skin disease, and you cannot classify it among any of the 18 types of kushta, and then you will be like what to do, and this is not mentioned in samhitas. Then there you can apply Trivida Bodhya Sangraha, that is an example. Or you can just understand it with respect to doshas, as this is not said, Anukta Artha Jnana, and we can understand it with the help of Tantritis, where we will be applying it where the concept is said in other areas with the help of Arthapati or Hetvartha Tantritis. That is another utility of the knowledge of Tantritis. And it is also said that Tantrayuktis makes clear the meanings of Avyakta, Lina Artha, and Lesha Ukta Padas. It is Avyakta. Unclear terms can be made easy to understand with the help of the knowledge of Tantrayuktis. An example may be like Avyakta means it is said but it is not clear. So an example that can be quoted is in Sadvrita, it is said by Ashtanga Hridayakara that Nija Roma Nakhas Mashu. Your Loma, Nakha, etc. should be trimmed regularly. And the Acharya doesn't give a clear cut instruction for that. He says it should be cut always and neat. But if we know, if rules are said, if it is very properly or said, then there is no loopholes in that. So there the commentator Hemadri, he takes cross referencing, that is Adidesha Tantrayukti from Charaka Samhita, where he says it should be done in Trihi Pakshasya, in a Paksha, in a fortnight, in a 2 weeks, it should be done thrice. So, what is said Avyakta can be made clear with the help of knowledge of Tantrayuktis by the application of Adidesha Tantrayukti here as an example. And then comes Lena Artha. Lena means the Artha means that there is latent. It is there itself. We should understand it in a better way. An example that can be said is in Vadavyadi Chikilsa, it is said that Kevalam Nirubastambam Ado Snehe Rubajare Vayu. So if Vada is in Nirubastamba, Kevalam Nirubastamba, that is if it is not being supported by any other Ama or any other dosha, dusha, etc., then Ado Snehe Rubajare. Ado, in the initial stage itself, we can apply Snehanam. But what the meaning implies is if it is not Nirubastambam, if it is associated with Amatva or if Kabadosha or Pitta dosha or anything, you should not go for Snehana in the initial stage itself. But what you should be doing, and you should be doing treatment considering that also. That can be taken as an example for Lena Artha. There Arthapati Tantrayukti is utilized. Then comes Lesha Ukta. Lesha Ukta padas are partially said. Like we can say in the example, like for Lesha Uktam is, it is only a part of it is mentioned, and you will be understanding it with the help of Tantrayuktis. Like in Annapana Adhyaya in Charaka Samhita, the Acharya says Annapana Egadesha Ayamuktaha. It is said here. A part of it is said because, and that which are used prominently, that which are in common use is said here. With the help of this, you have to understand the other things also. And another example that can be said is in the case of Mahakashayas. In the case of Mahakashayas, it is said that it is being described for Alpa Buddhina Vyavaharaya. For this is said only for those of having low intellect, and those having high intellect can take this as an example, and you can do it accordingly, like our famous clinicians they may be doing. So this is an example for Leshokta Tantrayuktis. Here Pradesha Tantrayukti is utilized. That is, when the thing to be utilized or to be expressed is very vast, they will be saying a part of it as a reference or as a model for the rest of the thing to be acted. So these are the uses of the knowledge of Tantrayuktis that you can understand as science in a better way and bring it to its ease in application level. So then coming to Tantrayukti Sankhya. I'm sorry, I think the numbers are not clear to you. And in the first, we have to know where this is. As I have already stated, this is not something very different from the Samhitas. And these are actually a part and parcel of the tantriktis when of the tantras when it is composed. So in the case of so when we talk of the source of this, it can be dated back that it is assumed that it is a part and parcel of composition of the text from around early 500 BC to around 1500 AD. And it is so it is seen in many texts like Nyaya, Mimamsa, or in some Paniniya Sutra also it is seen. And also books are attributed to it, like the example is like Tantrayukti Vichara, which is written by Neelamekha Bishek. It is a book exclusive to Tantrayuktis. And as a part of studying the Tantras in Ayurveda, we will be referring to those mentioned in Ayurveda Samhitas. So the first is by Susruta Acharya. He devotes an entire adhyaya to it in the second last chapter of the Uttar Tantra, and he names it as Tantrayukti Adhyaya. There 32 Tantrayuktis are mentioned by the Acharya. And the next reference can be seen in Charaka Samhita, Ashtanga Hridaya, and Ashtanga Sangraha, which enumerates a number of 36. According to Charaka Samhita, it is mentioned in the last chapter. That is, it is mentioned in the Uttarabasti Siddhi, Siddhisthana last chapter. And there the Acharya, actually the Dridabal Acharya has done Purana to that, right? So the Dridabal Acharya mentions 36 Tantrayuktis there, and it is further explained by the commentator Chakrapani Datta. In the case of Ashtanga Hridaya and Ashtanga Sangraha also, it is being mentioned in the last chapters of the Uttara Tantra, Vajikarana Vidyadhyaya, in the 40th chapter in Ashtanga Hridaya, and in the Ashtanga Sangraha in the 50th chapter. In Ashtanga Hridaya, it is not directly mentioned as a verse of as a part of the text, wherein they say the text is enriched with the Tantra Gunas and is devoid of Tantra Doshas. They say there the commentator Arunadatta actually adds the Tantrayuktis there. And in Ashtanga Sangraha, it's similar in presentation like Charaka Samhita, where the verses are said and the commentator adds up the individual Tantrayuktis. So there 36 Tantrayuktis are seen in Charaka Samhita, Ashtanga Hridaya, and Ashtanga Sangraha. And next comes Bhattar Harishchandra. He has enumerated around 40 Tantra Yuktis, and he has added 4 more to the usual number 36. Bhattara Harishchandra has in his commentary Charaganyasa wrote the Tantra Yuktis description, and it is in the initial part of the commentary. So let's look which are the 36 Tantrayuktis. They are Adhikarana, Yoga, Hetvartha, Padartha, Pradesha, Udessa, Nirdesa, Vakyashesha, Prayojana, Upadesha, Abadesha, Adidesha, Arthapati, Nirnaya, Prasanga, Eganda, Aneganda, Sa Apavarga, Viparyaya, Purvapaksha, Vidhana, Anumada, Vyakyana, Samshaya, Adida, Anagada, Aveksha, Swasapnya, Ukhya, Samuchaya, Nidarshanam, Nirvajanam, Samniyogam, Vikalpanam, Pratyutsara, Uddhara, Sambhava, Tantrayukteha. These are the 36 Tantrayuktis mentioned by Charakacharya, Ashtanga Hridaya, and Ashtanga Sangrahakara, with a difference, a minute difference in the namings, like in the case of Susruta, Anekanda is mentioned, Anekanda, Anekanda is similar, and Adida Aveksha is mentioned usually as Adida Apeksha also, and it is mentioned by Susrudacharya as Adikranta Avekshana. And some Niyoga is also termed as Niyoga and Susruta Samhita, both are same, but Yoga is different. Some Niyoga and Niyoga Tantrayukti is same. So the 4 Tantrayuktis that is not mentioned by Susrudacharya is Prayojana, Pratyutsara, Uddhara, and Sambhava. So the commentator says these can be inculcated into other 36 Tantrayuktis, other 32 Tantrayuktis. That is why it is not mentioned by Susrudacharya. And the 4 Tantrayuktis mentioned extra by Bhattara Harishchandracharya is Pariprashna, Vyakarana, Vyutkranta Abhidhana, and Hedu. We'll be seeing what these are. And Pariprashna, the commentator Chakrapani Datta says it can be included under Uddesha Tantrayukti, hence there is no need of description of a separate Tantrayukti called Pariprashna. Similarly, Vyakarana can be included under Vyakhyana, and Vyutkranta Abhidhana can be included under Nirdesa Tantrayukti. And the final one is Hedu. We all know Hedu is not a Tantrayukti. Among Charga Vimana Vadamargas, it is said that Hedu is Ubalabdhi Karana. It is a cause for perception of knowledge. So these are Pratiksha, Adipratiksha, Anumana, Aidihya, Aupamya, etc. So let's see which are the Tantrayuktis and what are the Tantrayuktis by one by one. So the first one mentioned by all the acharyas is Adhikaranam. Adhikaranam is defined as Adhikaranam nama em artham adhikritya pravartade karta. Adhikaranam nama em artham adhikritya pravartade karta. It is the Adhikarana. It is a central theme or topic that the acharya, karta, that the karta of the grantha thinks that he should express. So that is the central theme or the topic of discussion. It is called as Adhikarana. And Arunadatacharya, he says that it can be explained under 5 headings so that it's easy to understand. They are Shastra Adhikarana, Sthana Adhikarana, Adhyaya Adhikarana, Prakarana Adhikarana, and Vakya Adhikarana or Shloka Adhikarana. So first let's see what is Shastra Adhikarana. Shastra means, we all know Shastra is a science or it can be a Tantra. Like Ayush Shastra, it discusses about Ayurveda, or if it is in the case of Ashtanga Hridaya, it discusses about 8 branches of Ayurveda. This can be applicable to anything. Like if it is a text on mathematics, it deals with mathematics, like that. That is Shastra Adhikarana. And then Sthana Adhikarana. Sthanam is the sections. We all know our Tantras or Samhitas are divided into many subsections like Sutram, Nidanam, Vimanam, Chikitsa, etc. Pertaining to Chikitsa Sthana, the sthana adhikarana is chikitsa, or if in the case of nidana sthana, it is nidana, etiopathogenesis of the disease. And like in the case of any other book, like if a school student's text, if first term book, it deals with first term topics, like that. And coming to adhyaya adhikarana, adhyaya are chapters that which discusses specific topics. So in the case of Dinacharya Adhyaya, it is Dinacharya is the Adhikaranam there. Or in the case of Ritucharya, Ritucharya is the Adhikaranam. Navegan Dharanyam, the Adharita Vegas are the topic of discussion there. This is the Adhyaya Adhikaranam. Or if a chapter is dealing with algebra, then algebra is the Adhyaya Adhikaranam there. And then comes Prakarana Adhikarana. Prakarana means a context within the chapter of, to say, I think all the BMS students are now introduced to Charaka Samhita first chapter. And there the topic where Ayurveda Avadaranam is discussed, a group of slokas discussing a similar context. So Ayurveda Avadaranam is the first Prakarana that can be seen in that. And when in coming to the next, when Shad Padarthas are said, like Samanyam Cha Vishesham Cha, till the end of the topic of discussion, if the prakarana there is Shad Padarthas or Shad Karyas. And coming to Vakya Adhikaranam or Shloka Adhikaranam, Vakya, what the sentence or what the shloka says is the Adhikaranam there. So in the case of Vakya Adhikarana and Shloka Adhikarana, example may be like in the first sloka, Ragadi Rogan Satatanu Shaktana Sheshakaya Prasadana Sheshan. In that sloka, the Adhikarana that is mentioned there is the Mangalajarana. The Acharya salutes his favorite deity, Apurva Vaidya. That is the Shloka Adhikaranam or the Vakya Adhikaranam there. Or in the case of where Tridoshas are mentioned, like Vayu Pittam Kapaschedi Trayodosha Samasadaha. There the Vakya Adhikaranam or the Shloka Adhikaranam is three doshas or the doshas in Ayurveda. So this is how you will have to understand Adhikaranam. What the slokas or what the chapter or what the context says is the Adhikarana. What the author intends to express by that, or it is a central theme of discussion of the current scenario. Like today we are discussing Tantrayuktis. And the next Tantrayukti is Yoga Tantrayukti. Yoga, as in the Tantra plus Yukti, we know Yoga means to unify or to bring something together. So Yogo Nama Yojana Vyastanam Padanam Egikaranam. Yogo Nama Yojana, it brings together something. Vyastanam Padana, it brings different terms, and Egikaranam to make it unified, to make it into one. That is the arrangement. In simple terms, we can say that the arrangement of the slokas can be made as Yoga Tantrayukti. Like you will be arranging the different terms in a sloka to its Anvaya to form a meaning. That is also Yoga. And various terms placed at different places are arranged to draw proper appropriate meaning, as in the case of Anvaya. That is the pronunciable example for that. So Adhikarana and Yoga is applicable to all the slokas in Ayurveda. In anything, in any, if you take any sloka, the Adhikarana and Yoga, you can find out these both Tantrayuktis are applicable to any sloka. And another pronounced example for this Yoga is Pancha Aveva Vakyam. Pancha Aveva Vakyam. That is, these are the 5 terms that we will be bringing together to substantiate our view. That is, the different terms are pratigna, hedu, drishtanta, upanaya, and nigamana. And this is said as an example by the commentators while describing yoga. So pratigna is actually a proposition that you make, that you have to prove that it is right. That is the pratigna. And hetu is the cause. Why you say why you proposed that sentence like that. That is the hetu. And drishtanta is the example for that. You have to cite an example for that if you say a proposition. And upanayam is the substantive correlation. You have to correlate things. You will be saying an example and you will be correlating it so that these both are similar. So it is like that. So the final one is nigamanam. Nigamanam is the final conclusion that you will be getting out of that. It may be same as the pratigna or it may be different from the pratigna. An example said in the text are, example for pratigna is Madrajascha ayam garbaha. That is, the garba is madraja. It is maternal in origin. So the hedu said for that is Madaram Andarena Garbaha. Within the Mada, the Garba is formed. That is the hedu cited for that. And the Drishtanta mentioned here is that of the Kudagara. Kudagara is the upper dwelling area in a house. That is, it is situated within the house, but it is a separate entity from the house, separate room. And the Upanaya said is, as different materials make up the Kudagara, similarly is the production of Garbha in the Mata, and that is the correlation they have made. That is, the Pratigna is correlated to the Drishtanta there. And the Nigamana, the final conclusion that is derived is, so therefore we can say that is Madrajascha and Garbha. The Garbha is Madraja in origin. That is the that is the famous example usually said for Yoga Tantrayukti in the text. And then the next Tantrayukti is Hetvartam. Hedu as Artham. It is Hetvartho Nama id Anyatra Abhihidam Anyatra Upapadyade. Hetvartho Nama. Hetvartho is Yed Anyatra Abhihidam. That which is said at some other place is Anyatra Upapadyade. That it suits some other places. That is extension of concepts. One concept that is said at a place becomes extendable, becomes suitable or applicable in some other area, in other context. The famous example is Samana Gunabhyaso hi Dhadunam Adhikarana Edi. When we study the Tantrayuktis, actually when we look for the examples, to understand this, you have to refer to the context where it is said. Then only we will be understanding why this example suits this Tantrayukti, and then it becomes easy for us to interpret in other slokas also. So in this example, Samana Gunabhyaso hi Dhadunam Adhikaranam Edi. This is a statement from Vadakala Kali Adhyaya, where discussion on Vadakala and Akala, that is the gunas as well as doshas of Vada, goes on. And there the Kumarashira Bharadwaja, he explains his view on doshas that Samana Guna Abhyasam Dhadunam Adhikaranam. Samana Gunam, similarity causes increase of the if you abhyasa, if you practice the Samana Gunas to Vada, it is like Ruksha Shida, etc., then it causes the increase of similar qualities of Vada, and it thus finally causes increase of Vayu. Here the word Dhadu is used in terms of Vada dosha here. As this becomes applicable in other cases also, like in the case of other doshas, other dhadus, malas, etc., everything. So this can be taken as extension of concept. The concept that is said in the chapter, 12th chapter of Charaka Samhita, becomes utilized in other areas also. This is the example for Hetvartam. When you propose a concept at a place and it becomes applicable in other areas also. This is Hetvartam. And then the next Tantrayukti is Padartha. Padartham, as you all know, Pada, Artha. That is the Artha of Padas, the meaning of terms. It is explained as Yo Artho Abhihidaha Sutre Pade Va Sapadarthaha. Padasya Padayoho Padanam Varthaha Padarthaha. It is Yo Artho Abhihidaha. The Artha that is said in Sutre Padeva, in the Sutra, in the Shloka, or in the Pada, or in the individual Pada is termed as Padartha. This is the Padartha Tantrayukti. It is Padasya Padayoho Padanam Vartaha Padarthaha. Pada of Padasya, of a single Pada, or of Padayoho, of more than one, of two Padas, or more than two Padas, is termed as Padartha Tantrayukti. An example is in case of Dravya, the term where we say Dravya, we know it is 9 Dravyas are mentioned in Dravya Sangraha. that is Thadi, 9 dravyas. And another example that is usually mentioned is you have to use the appropriate meaning of the term. That is, in a context, if you are talking about the rasa, we know we have different meanings for the term rasa, and you have to bring the right meaning of that pada in the context. Example is when we say it is in rasa shastra, we will be taking rasa as the metal, mercury. And when we talk about cookery or in culinary science, we think of, we know it is a dish. Or when we talk about in the dhadus, like we say rasa vriddhi, rasa kshaya, then we know that they are discussing about the dhadu rasa. Or when we say about shadrasas, in that context, if they say madhura rasa, then it should be understood as taste. So suiting the correct meaning of the term in the context is also often termed as padartha. Anyway, it is the meaning of the term. It is ascribed as padartha. This Adhikarana, Yoga, and Padartha Tantrayukti becomes applicable to all the slokas. Every slokas in application of Adhikarana, Yoga, and Padartha Tantrayukti is same. And the next Tantrayukti is Pradesha. Pradesho नाम यद् बहुत्वाद् अर्थस्य कार्त्स्नेन अभिधातुम् अशक्यम् एकदेशेन अभिधीयते. Pradesho nama. Pradesha is yad bahutvad arthasya. The object that you need to express or the matter of discussion is bahutva. It is very vast. It is elaborate. So kartsnena abhidadum becomes ashakyam. Kartsnena in its entirety. It's the full thing cannot be described there. Abhidadum to say it is ashaktam. It is difficult. It is not capable to tell the everything, every minute details of the thing, as it is very elaborate. So, ekadeshena abhidiyade. So, a part of it will be described as the model to serve to the other similar areas also. That is called as Pradesha. Example, I've already stated, like in the case of Annapana Adhyaya, Annapana Vidya Adhyaya in Charaka Samhita, he says in the end that Annapana Ekadesho Ayamuktaha Prayo Byogigaha, that most of the things in common use have been stated by me, and everything is very difficult to say, so you have to take this as a model and do this. Similarly is in the case of when we say about Shodhanadi Ganas, the acharyas have mentioned many drugs in that. Only those drugs are not used, but we have to take, if some other drugs similar are available, then we have to understand this as this is the model set, and these drugs also suits the purpose. That is also other example for Pradesha, because everything cannot be inculcated into tantras, that it becomes very vast and it becomes useless. So it becomes very bore and vast. So Pradesha Tantrayukti is often used. Also in the chapter Dravya Vijnani Adhyaya in Ashtanga Hridaya also, everything of the Drava and Dravya is not mentioned. Only a part of it is mentioned. These are examples for Pradesha Tantrayukti. And then the next Tantrayukti is Uddesha. Uddesho nama samksheva abhidanam. Uddesho nama samksheva abhidanam. The things are said in concise, briefly said, samksheva. It is there is a vast description for that, but it is concisely stated in a statement. That is called as Uddesha. An example can be said like Hedu Linga Aushadha Jnanam. We know in Charaka Samhita it is said that the knowledge is transferred, the knowledge of Ayurveda is transformed in the form of Hedu, Linga, and Aushadha Jnanam. Within these three terms, the entire Ayurveda can be elaborated. So this is a concise form of everything said in Ayurveda. So it can be elaborated. That is, that Tantrayukti is called as Uddesha. Some other examples that we can note are in Dashavida Pariksha Bhava. At first, the Acharya says these are the Dashavida Pariksha Bhavas in a Uddesha, in a Samksheba manner. That is Uddesha Tantrayukti. Also in the Charaka Samhita 8th chapter, Pancha Panchagas are mentioned. Initially, the Pancha Panchagas, what they are mentioned concisely, and then further explanation of it is following. And also in Navegan Dharani Adhyaya, Adharanya Vegas are mentioned first, and later these are described. So, Samksheba Abhidanam, if something is said in concise, in a brevity, in a short, it is said as Uddesha Tantrayukti. The next is Nirdesa Tantrayukti. Nirdesho nama Sankhya Uktasya Vivaranam. We are doing Vivarana of what is mentioned previously in Samkshipta form. That is Nirdesa Tantrayukti. So it is amplification of what was said earlier in a nutshell. Example is first already discussed. Dashvita Pariksha Bhavas are mentioned. So the sequential description of Nirdesha, of elaboration of this comes. In the case of Ashtahara Vidhividhana, first they says which are the Ashtahara Vidhividhanas, and further description is given along with it sequentially. In the next slokas itself, it is following. That is another example for Nirdesha Tantrayukti. And another example is description of Panchapanchaka. Panchapanchakas, which they are the five pentads that is related with Jnanolpati is mentioned, and then it is further described. That is the description of Panchapanchakas. And in the case of Vega Dharita Lakshanas, the first the Vegas which should not be done Dharana is mentioned, and if you do it, what are the symptoms that can be seen is mentioned. So this is the explanation for Uddesha and Nirdesha Tantrayukti. It is said that usually Uddesha and Nirdesha Tantrayuktis are seen together. That is, soon after Uddesha Tantrayukti, Nirdesha Tantrayukti follows. That is how you can identify it. And the next Tantrayukti is Vakya Shesha Tantrayukti. Vakya Shesha Tantrayukti means Vakyam is Shesham. Shesham means something is left out. So Vakya Shesho Nama Yad Lakhavartam Acharyena Vakyeshu Padam Akridam Gamyamanadaya Puryade. Vakya Shesho Nama. Vakya Shesha is Yad Lakhavartam Acharyena Vakyeshu Padam Akridam. Lakhavartam Acharyana. By the Acharya, for the purpose of making it light, Lakhavartam, to make it lekhu, the Acharya omits some words. Vakyeshu Padam Akridam. He does not do Akridam. He does not write it in the Tantra. Some Vakyas. That is Gamya Manadaya Puride. When we read it, we know we can feel that. That is usually said as supply of ellipses. To make the sentence light or to make it easy to memorize, the acharyas will be saying some things, and but that terms are actually not very important, that we can, without these terms we cannot know the words. It's not like that. Even without the omitting of that words, we can understand the meaning. That is Vakya Shesha Tantrayukti. An example is in the sentence Tatra Khad Khani Dehe Asmin. That is the verse, and Bhavanti should be supplemented by us when we understand that. Tatra Khad, Kha is Akasha, from Akasha, Khani Dehe. In the Deha, the porosities, the spaces are in the body are from Kha. There, Bhavanti, to make the sentence complete, we should add Bhavanti there. But even without that, we can understand the meaning of that. No important words are omitted, but to make it light, some words which are not very relevant are omitted. Some other example can be like in the when we say the gunas of Vada, tatra luksho, lekho, shida, khara, sukshma, chalo, anilaha. So we have to say anila is tatra anilaha. In the end of the sentence, we have to supplement the word bhavati. Then only the sentence becomes complete. But to make it light and to make it easy to memorize, some words are omitted by the acharya. That is called as Vakya Shesha Tantrayukti. As many texts are available now with Anvayas, many Vakya Shesha Tantrayuktis can be found by us while reading it itself. It is a very simple Tantrayukti. And then comes Prayojana Tantrayukti. Prayojanam nama yadartham kamayamanaha pravartade. Prayojanam is yadartham kamayamanaha pravartade. When you do something, you will be wishing that this will fulfill that object. That is called as prayojanam. It is the purpose of discussion. Why it is mentioned? That is called as Prayojana Tantrayukti. So the purpose of description of Ayurveda is Dhatu Samya. You all know. Dhatu Samya Kriya Chokta Tandrasya Asya Prayojana. The entire purpose of the description of Ayurveda is to bring to the normalcy of the dhadus and thus in the maintenance of health. Some other prominent examples that you can see in the first chapters itself, that I think first term portions are completed in all the colleges. So other Prayojanas are examples are Abhyangam Ajared Nityam Sa Jara Shramavadaha Drishti Prasada Pushtyayu Swapna Sutvaktvadarthikrit. If you do Abhyanga Nityam, Abhyangam Ajared Nityam. If Nityam Abhyanga is done, if you do Ajarana of Abhyanga Nitya daily, then what will be the benefits you are getting as mentioned? That is the Prayojana of Abhyanga. So here also Prayojana Tantrayukti is used. And in the next example is Ityajara Samasena Yam Prapnodi Samacharan Ayur Arogyam Aishwaryam Yasho Logamsa Shashwatam. This is the concluding verse in the Dinacharya Adhyaya. After saying Sadvritas, it is said that Ityajara Samasena. These are in concise, these are the Sadvritas that you should follow. And By ajarana of this, you will be getting Ayu, Arogyam, Aishwaryam, Yashas, and Shashwata Logam, Logamsa Shashwata. So this is the Prayojana if you resort to the practice of Sadvratas. So Prayojana is something that you will be getting out of it, and which is directly described, like in the description of yogas, the medicinal preparations. At the end of it, the Balasruti is it. That is the Prayojana of it. And the next Tantrayukti is Upadesha Tantrayukti. Upadesham, as the word insinuates, it is some advice for you. It is some not advice from somebody else. It is authoritative instructions. That is Upadesho Nama Apta Anushasanam. Anushasanas from Aptas. We all know Aptas are Rajastamobhyam Nirmukta. They are the authoritative persons in the concerned subjects. So the instructions from Aptas are called as Upadesha. Some examples are doing Snehana and then Swedana before Shodhana. Shodhana should always be done, except some contraindications are said, like we will be doing Sadhya Vamana and all. But usually, when you do Shodhana, it should be preceded by Snehana and then Swedana. And some other examples for Upadesha Tantraikti are Snanamardida Netrasya Karna Roga Adisarishu Atmana Penasa Jirna Bhukta Vatsucha Garhidam. Snana should not be, that is, head bath should not be done by those affected with the Netrasya Karna Roga, etc. This is an example for Upadesha Tantraikti. And another example is Tatra Purva Vidisthyajya Sevaniyo Abaraha Kramat Asadmi Jahi Roga Sihu Sahaja Sahasa Tyagashilana. The Upadesha here is in the context of Ridusandhi. In the Ridusandhi, it is said that Purva Vidhi should be done Tyajana. You should abstain from slowly from, in the Ridu Sandhi, you should slowly abstain from the Charya of the previous Ridu and Sevinyo Abaraha Kramat. Kramat, slowly you should resort to the following of Charya of the next Ridu. If you do like that, if you doesn't do like that, Asatmya Jahi Roga Sihu Sahasa Tyagashilana. If you Sahasa, all of a sudden, if you abstain from this, if you leave off the Charyas of a Ridu, then it causes diseases due to Asatmyaja Seva. This is again another Upadesha Tantriti in the context of Riducharya Dhyaya. So, actually, Upadesha, the entire Ayurveda can be in the form of Upadesha because it is instruction from our Aptas. So, these are the evident examples for Upadesha Tantriti. And I think the time permits me to do only this much of Tantritis for explanation today. So I think you all have understood it. And if you have any doubts, you can ask. Can you hear me, Roshni? I've been given 1 hour, and I think in the last 10 minutes, if you have any doubts regarding these all those discussed now, can be asked. Or if any shloka, if you have to find out the tantritis, also we can keep for discussion.
Sorry for the inconvenience, ma'am. People are requested to post the question and doubt sessions here. Now it is a question and answer session. And one major doubt for me is, yeah, as it is relying that Tantrayukti is very important to know what the Shastra says to the young generation. Then why actually Tantrayukti is mentioned at last of the chapters in every Samhitas, ma'am, like Charaka, Ashtanga, everything. As we think that it is very important and that should be the introduction to learn the Samhita. It should be described in front of the chapters and why it is described at last, ma'am. Is there any specific reason? I have this doubt still from the time I'm learning this.
May I answer?
Yes, ma'am.
Am I audible? Yes.
Yes,
I
ma'am, you're
think
audible. You
when
can
these
carry on,
books
ma'am.
were written in, okay, these tantrikis are actually a part and parcel of the construction of the text. In a at a time, there was no need that these should be necessarily said or described. Everyone who enters into the shastra know some allied sciences. Like everyone is introduced in a gurukula, and in the gurukula they are introduced to many allied sciences at a time. Like dharma shastra is being learned by them, and some literature is also being learned by them. So at that time, when the texts were constructed, I think there was no need for description of these separately. But later, as the education system and everything all changed, it became mandatory that it is not being understood by anyone. So I think it's the reason why commentators has added these at the end of this. Maybe that's the reason that other samhitas other than Sushruta Samhita doesn't explain these. And if you learn it at the what to say, in the initial phases of the tantra, I don't think anybody will continue to learn these texts because it becomes very confusing. So at the end of the day, we can know that these are incorporated into that, and it should be understood like that. This is nothing different from the tantra. That is why maybe it is mentioned at the end of the samhitas.
How can be
Clear?
this Tantra Yuktis can be used in these present days, ma'am? Like colloquially or practically, how this Tantra Yuktis can be used for writing the scripts or something else? In these days, how to use that, ma'am?
No, when you write tantra itself, it is a part. Okay, if you're going to write something on Ayurveda, just imagine you are going to write some samhita on your own, not a samhita, some a book on your own. You will be writing it in the way you want, but tantriktis becomes applicable in that. Right, you will not be thinking, oh, which tantrikti I should add while I'm writing this. Nothing like that. You are not purposefully inculcating the tantriktis into a book which you will be writing. It is actually a part and parcel of the construction. And after that, if some other people reads it, okay, like you will be saying something in the initial stage of the book, and you will not be repeating it in any other chapters. Right, like if we'll be saying about nidana, samprapti, everything, you will be going on saying. But these are mentioned in the first chapter what these are, and in the later chapters you have to understand, okay, samprapti means this. That is by the use of arthapati tantraikti or hetvartha tantraikti, you will be knowing that, okay, this means that this is the extension of the concept said in that chapter. So this is nothing different from that. You need not inculcate tantraiktis into what you write. It is actually a part and parcel of the construction of the text itself.
Ma'am, and one more doubt I have. As Acharyas has mentioned in the Tantras that the concept which has been mentioned once in the book should not repeat other time at end of the series anywhere. But why Charaka has mentioned few things repeatedly in various Tanas, ma'am? Can I know the reason for this, ma'am?
Yes, it is like some teacher is coming and teaching you something, and she will be teaching, or sir, she will be teaching the rest of the things in the next day, and she thinks that you doesn't know or you doesn't remember anything which was previously said. It becomes mandatory that you should repeat those things in a nutshell which you have said. So when prakarana, it is a prasanga tandraikti actually. Prasanga tandraikti means prakarana agadatvadina punarabhidana. You will be saying it only in the context. If only the context permits, you will be repeating the thing. You will not be saying things, some unnecessary things you will not be saying. When it comes to the present context, like in the case of Jara, it is already mentioned in Nidana Sthana. But when you will be going to final year, you may not be knowing what was the Chikitsa Sutra mentioned, or why Grida becomes useful in Jara, or what was the Samprapti of the Jara. You may not be remembering. So it becomes necessary that repetition is needed. Necessary repetitions are unavoidable in the text. Unnecessary repetitions are only Tantra dosha. And all our texts have said that
Ma'am,
these are
and
devoid of Tantra dosha, is rich in Tantra gunas. Yes.
ma'am, is there tantra doshas, ma'am, and how to eliminate those and how to find that this is a tantra dosha while we are studying or while we are trying to understand a shloka in a shastra? How to find
Our
that this
texts
is a
are
tantra
devoid of
dosha?
any Tantra doshas. We may not find any Tantra doshas in our
Ma'am,
text
but the
because
recent
in fact end
commentaries,
of
what we find for Charaka Samhita or anything else, any Samhita, we find recent times many commentaries for those, ma'am. So if we study or if we go across through it, we'll find many tantra doshas and how to find that this is a tantra dosha in particular sloka.
no, it is said even at the end of all the samhitas that even like in Ashtanga Sangraha, Ashtanga etc. This text is devoid of any Tantra dosha, and this is enriched with Tantra gunas. And all our texts as written by Aptas are devoid of any Tantra dosha. You have
Aptavakya.
to know which are the Tantra doshas, and you cannot find any Tantra dosha in our text because these are being written by Aptas, and even these are re-edited, redacted by many acharyas and many scholars. So I don't think you will be able to find any Tantra dosha. Only Tantra gunas are enriched in the Samhitas. Yes. Is it clear?
Shall we go for the recap of this session, ma'am?
Yes, sure.
Ma'am has explained very clearly and easily the importance. Actually, we people think that the Tantra Yukti, the importance of it is just to understand the Shastra, but that is not the thing. Many more is there. If a wrong statement is given, it can be refuted, and we can justify one's own statement. And proper understanding of the science, which means a lot in understanding the Tantra Yukti, enlightens the mind by opening the subtleness. Faster understanding of the allied sciences and the hidden meaning can be elicited. And ma'am has clearly said that even the Abhyakta, Lina Artha, and Lesha Ukta meanings also can be elicited if proper Tantra Yukti study has been done. Totally, 36 Tantra Yukti has been enlisted, but various acharyas has various counts. And ma'am has clearly enlisted the number of the Tantra Yuktis of the various acharyas. Ma'am has enlisted few things. Adhikarana as topic of discussion, yoga arrangement, as we know the importance of yoga of various things in a particular sloka, which means if we put that in order we get the meaning, if it changes it goes in a different sense. Hetu artha, extension of the concepts. Padartha, meaning of the 10. Pradesha, contextual briefing. Uddesha, concise statement. Nirdesha, amplification. Vakyashesha, even sloka can be understood even eliminating some words from it. Prayojana, purpose of the description, Upadesha, authoritative instructions, and much more. We had a very good session. Shall we go for the conclusion, ma'am, for this session?
Yes, sure.
Thank you, ma'am. It was like no words to describe this
May
session.
I
It
take a
kept
minute?
us fully involved to the session. Ma'am,
Can I have a minute?
ma'am, I can't hear you. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Sure, sure.
Yes, sir. Actually, I wanted to thank all the organizing committees for giving me such an opportunity, and I take this as a privilege to present a paper here. So thanks to all the organizing committee members and especially Venkatarian sir. So thanks to all for listening also. Thank you. Yes, you can
Yes,
proceed.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It was actually a
You can
wonderful
proceed.
session and no words to describe this session, ma'am. It kept us fully involved in the session and we are waiting for this thing. And I'm very happy to say that this session will be continuing in the next week also. So stay tuned for this wonderful series and this session will continue in the next week. Success is not final, failure is not fatal. Continuing the challenges actually matters. Work daily, have the result big. Thank you so much, ma'am. We'll meet you in the next week, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Sure.
ma'am.